8th of August 2023, you're very welcome back. This is the woke movement is failing. One of the most hilarious developments is that Joe Biden, the American president, has talked about introducing conscription. This will mean that young people, mainly young men between, let's say, 18 and 24, there will get a letter ordering them to turn up to their military bases where they'll be enlisted into the US Army. This is unbelievable stuff after all these years to think that this is what's coming back. And here we have the woke mainstream media that supports this and says he's a man of peace. Radio Television, the Irish broadcaster, called him a man of peace when he came here. And here he's getting ready for war. And he's getting fully ready for war with China over Taiwan and other things. And he's already at war with Russia. He's weaponized his currency, the dollar, and they're pulling out the gold out of America. They're not buying their bonds, they're not lending to America. They have America in a bit of a stranglehold, and they're caught between printing money, which will debase the currency and damage the currency, or letting the whole thing default, and they're going to go for inflation, printing money and all of that. Nobody seems to care about that. They're scared big time. The Democrats are scared that Trump is coming back, and I'd say it's about a 60% chance that Trump will come back. And they'll try and leave it in a situation for him that when he inherits, takes over the economy, it'll be in such a terrible state that they'll blame him. And knowing some of the American people, they're stupid enough to think that. I mean, they're so easily manipulated that it's unbelievable. Some of them voted for Biden in the last election and made a horrendous mistake. In any event, it's interesting to see the wheel turning. We now see that the people who are virtue signaling, mainly the American Democratic Party and the EU, are getting it very hard to get along. They've bawled on about all the renewable energy, all the carbon saving measures, all the big plans for electric cars. They've pushed ahead with all of this without any assessment, which is required in Europe anyway, under the SEA directive. That was totally bypassed. So there's been no engineering study done on all that. And you've seen my videos on the electric cars going on fire. They're a deadly danger. Somebody will eventually be killed again. There has been one killed in a shipping event a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and so we see that coming to fruition. We see that the windmills have not replaced the fossil fuel or nuclear, and now the Nigerians, not Nigeria, Niger, have rebelled, and there's a coup there, and they're threatening to take the whole uranium away from France and leave France having to go out and buy it on the open market. There is uranium in other sources, but they'll pay a good bit more for it. So with that in mind, it's gas to see the way this is turning out. Meanwhile, the Russians have a big say in Nigeria. There's a lot of Africa just underneath the Saharan desert that feels that there's more in common with Russia than the West. I meant before, they won't allow certain products into Europe manufactured, and they have a lot more in common with China. China has been slowly doing its homework there, getting in and infiltrating and taking over Africa, and they'll share in the goodies and all the minerals and all the great things that's in that continent. While the West, while America, while the European Union and the British and all them, while they were craving all about climate change and thought they were going to bring the whole world with them and go along with this and rule the roost, these people were just laughing at them and getting their own plan in place. And now that trap is being snapped. We don't know what will happen in Nigeria. That will be very good to watch. But the thing about it is, you have talk of Wagner, you have talk of the local crowd fighting them. They've closed their airspace, and it's really up to France now and to see what this ECU, which is a local West African economic union, what they will do. Will they go in and will they start firing inside in a war inside there? The Americans have a drone base there as well. That'll be very interesting to see what's happening. But essentially, the reason I opposed the whole renewable climate thing was that I said none of the cures worked. Whatever any evidence of it being real or not, none of it worked. And you're not going to bring the rest of the world along with you. Only the West will do it, and they'll eventually dissolve us down or reduce us down to terrible poverty, where there'll be no pensions for people. There'll be nearly nothing. They'll just print and print money, and eventually we'll all be very, very poor in the entire Canada, the United States, England, Britain and Europe. Very, very poor. And meanwhile, these wars will draw out a lot of them. They may make Russia a bit poorer, but Russia is not collapsing in the way they hoped. And all the wishful thinking of the West that Putin would be overthrown is nonsense, or that he was sick is all lies. They're all lying to us, and now they're in a position where it's time to either act or not, and it doesn't look good for Zelensky's Ukraine. So what we're seeing here is reality coming home to roost. But the talk of conscription in the United States at this point, after this was going on during the Vietnam War, and don't forget, in the Vietnam War, they fought the Vietnamese, but now the Vietnamese is one of the biggest investors in America. They managed to overcome the Kim Jong-il type communism and get a more vibrant economy going, and they actually invest in the United States to help to prop up its economy. So it just shows you how futile it was, and they welcomed Trump, the Vietnamese, when he came. So it just shows you how futile that episode was. 54,000 Americans lost their lives before you take the injuries. So that's it, folks. Feel free to comment underneath. It is very interesting times. Essentially, the way it is, the rest of the world kind of sides with me. And this Europe and America and Britain goes along with the woke stuff, the Democratic Party. And they have the full support of the media. It is unbelievable how the media is so totally against the Conservatives. Nigel Farage managed to overturn the banking thing with the racket that was on there just because he was so well known. Had it not been him, nobody else would break through that, and the banks would now be busily taking away the accounts of people whose political views they do not agree with. See the mess that was happening there. So we must understand the impact of the media. It's bought over by big billionaires. They're all on the side of the woke left, and they will remain that way. All we can do is be warned about them and not have any interest in them whatsoever. Just shun them. Don't bother with the television or any of that unless there's a television channel like GB News or there's Newsmax. There are certain, mostly internet-based, but there's other ones there too, conservative programs to be watched. So people will hopefully turn to them and get a bit more of the truth, and maybe I'll be able to keep you going. But that's the situation we're in. People are doing well in Ireland. There's an awful lot of new cars. They're going well for the moment. I hope it does stick it, but the closure of Tara Mines is a bit of a blow, but we'll soon see how that goes. I mean, you have to also, in a position like mine, be prepared to say, well, maybe you're wrong, But the fact is, tourists can't go into Dublin. You'd be robbed in it. It is an unbelievable, violent place. Drug-ridden everywhere, shooting up in the alleyways in Dublin. And what's the police situation? They're not enforcing the law. And this is the classical thing you have in America, where the Walmarts are closing. The supermarkets are closing because they're just being robbed out of it. And so the left does not agree and does not believe in law and order, and that's as simple as that. And if they had that way, they'd have the people who have a bit of property and have something they work for, to take that off them, and they'll be soon doing that too. Folks, that's just a general bit of a chat of the situation, and but I just repeat again. Be some crack, there'll be some fun when they go drafting the Yanks in, some of the woke crowd, and all with their LGBTQ and their transvestites and all the rest. Be some crack when they lob them into the army and put them in a mucky field with boots on them and a big rifle with a bayonet sticking out of the top, a big heavy one, and have to tunch along through the muck and the rain and live out, stand out at night. There'll be something to see, something really to see. Okay, folks, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see you back for something else soon.